Imagine being at the top of your game. You're famous, you're rich, everyone knows your name. But then you make one wrong connection, one bad deal, and suddenly your life is in danger. Not from a jealous rival or a crazy fan, but from some of the most dangerous criminals in American history. This is the terrifying reality that many Golden Age Hollywood stars faced when they got too close to the mob. Today, we're diving into the dark side of old Hollywood, where the glitter of fame mixed with the shadows of organized crime. These aren't just stories about celebrities who knew gangsters at parties. These are stories about stars whose lives ended in tragedy because they got tangled up with the wrong people. Some of these deaths were clearly mob hits. Others remain mysteries that still haunt us today. Before we begin, I want to be real with you. Some of what you're about to hear is based on solid evidence and court records. Other parts are theories that investigators and historians have pieced together over the years. We'll be clear about which is which. But one thing is certain. The connection between Hollywood and organized crime during the Golden Age was very real, and it cost some people everything. Let's start with a man who wasn't exactly a movie star, but he was famous in his own terrifying way. Benjamin Siegel, better known as Bugsy, was a gangster who became a celebrity. Back in the 1930s and 40s, he was one of the most feared men in organized crime, but he was also incredibly handsome and charming. He wore expensive suits, drove fancy cars, and hung out with movie stars. He dated beautiful actresses and went to all the best parties in Hollywood. Stars like George Raft and Jean Harlow considered him a close friend. But Bugsy wasn't in Hollywood just a party. He had big dreams. He wanted to build something that had never been done before, a luxurious casino and hotel in the middle of the Nevada desert. This place would become the Flamingo Hotel, and it would transform Las Vegas from a dusty little town into the entertainment capital we know today. The problem was that Bugsy was building this casino with mob money. Money from very dangerous men who expected to see profits. But the Flamingo went way over budget. Some say Bugsy was stealing money from a project. When the hotel finally opened, it was a disaster. Hardly anyone showed up. The mob bosses who had invested millions were furious. On June 20th, 1947, Bugsy was sitting in his girlfriend's house in Beverly Hills, reading the newspaper. Without any warning, bullets came crashing through the window. Multiple shots hit him. One of his eyes was blown completely out of his head and landed across the room. It was one of the most brutal mob hits in history, and it sent a clear message. No matter how famous you are, no matter how many movie star friends you have, if you cross the mob, you're done. The murder was never officially solved, but everyone in the underworld knew who ordered it. Bugsy's old friend and fellow mobster, Meyer Lansky, either gave the order or approved it. Pictures of Bugsy's dead body were printed in newspapers all across America. For the first time, regular people saw just how violent and ruthless organized crime really was. Now let's talk about a real Hollywood star, a woman who made millions laugh, but died under circumstances that have never made sense. Thelma Todd was one of the biggest comedy stars of the 1930s. She was beautiful, talented, and funny. She appeared in movies with the Marx Brothers, Laurel and Hardy, and Buster Keaton. Everyone loved her. But on the morning of December 16, 1935, her maid found her dead in her car inside her garage. The official story said she died from carbon monoxide poisoning, either an accident or intentional. But from the very beginning, something felt wrong about this explanation. Thelma had been at a party the night before and was in a great mood. She had plans for the next day. People noticed she had bruises on her face and throat that were never explained. And here's the thing that really bothers investigators. Thelma was terrified of garages and carbon monoxide. Her friend said she would never just sit in a running car in an enclosed space. So what really happened? Well, Thelma owned a restaurant on the Pacific Coast Highway called Thelma Todd Sidewalk Cafe. It was a legitimate business. But according to rumors, there was an illegal gambling operation hidden upstairs. This casino attracted both Hollywood celebrities and dangerous criminals. Some historians believe Thelma was getting scared of the mob figures involved in this gambling operation and wanted out. One of the most powerful mob bosses of that era was Lucky Luciano. Multiple witnesses claimed they saw Thelma arguing with Luciano at a party shortly before her death. According to these accounts, Luciano wanted to expand the gambling operation at a restaurant, and Thelma refused. In the mob world, saying no to a boss like Lucky Luciano could be deadly. The investigation into Thelma's death was suspiciously quick and shallow. Important witnesses were never questioned. Evidence was mishandled or ignored. The case was closed fast, which made many people think powerful forces were covering up what really happened. Nearly 90 years later, many experts believe Thelma Todd wasn't the victim of an accident. She was murdered by the mob, and it was made to look like something else. Moving forward in time, we come to a story about a singer whose voice touched millions of hearts. Sam Cooke had one of the most beautiful voices in music history. Songs like A Change Is Gonna Come and You Send Me made him a superstar. But Sam was more than just a talented singer. He was a smart businessman who started his own record label and publishing company. This was incredibly rare for a black musician in the 1960s. Most record labels and managers took advantage of black artists, paying them almost nothing while making millions. Sam was determined to control his own career and keep his own money. On December 11, 1964, Sam Cooke's life ended in a seedy Los Angeles motel. The official story says he was shot by the motel manager, a woman named Bertha Franklin, in self-defense. According to this version, Sam had been with a woman who ran off with his clothes and wallet. When he broke into the manager's office looking for her, Bertha shot him. A coroner's jury ruled the killing justified, but the people who knew Sam never believed the story. The woman who supposedly stole his belongings was later arrested for prostitution. The physical evidence of the scene didn't match what Bertha Franklin claimed happened. Most importantly, Sam's body showed signs of a severe beating, far worse than what would have happened in a quick confrontation with the motel manager. Here's what many people don't know. Sam Cooke was having serious problems with organized crime figures who controlled much of the music industry back then. The mob had their hands in booking, distribution, and venues. As Sam became more successful and independent, he was cutting out the middlemen who had mob connections. These were men who had been taking big chunks of money from black musicians for years. Just 1 week before his death, Sam had been meeting with lawyers. He was planning to audit his former record label for unpaid royalties. This audit would have revealed financial connections to organized crime figures, and they couldn't let that happen. Sam had also just signed a major deal with RCA Records that gave him unprecedented control over his music. This deal cut out several mob-connected middlemen who were used to making easy money off him. The shooting at that motel provided the perfect cover story. A black man in a compromising situation at a cheap motel, it played into the racist stereotypes of that time period. Most people didn't question it too deeply, especially given how black people were treated in 1964 America. But many music historians and crime experts believe Sam Cooke's death was a carefully planned hit designed to eliminate a talented artist who had become too powerful and too independent for the mob's comfort. Now we need to talk about the most famous woman in the world and one of the biggest mysteries in Hollywood history. Marilyn Monroe was the ultimate Hollywood star. Her movies like Gentlemen Prefer Blondes and Some Like It Hot made her the most recognizable woman on the planet. Her platinum blonde hair, her beauty, her voice, everything about her became iconic. But behind that glamorous image was a troubled woman caught in a dangerous web involving the most powerful men in America. On August 5, 1962, Marilyn was found dead in her home. She was naked, lying face down on her bed. The official cause of death was ruled a probable intentional overdose from barbiturate pills. But from the moment the news broke, people started asking questions. The whole scene seemed wrong. The room had been cleaned up before police arrived. Important evidence disappeared. The timeline of when she was discovered and when authorities were called has never made sense. What makes Marilyn's death especially suspicious is who she was connected to in the months before she died. She was reportedly having affairs with both President John F. Kennedy and his brother Robert Kennedy, who was the Attorney General. But this wasn't just about romance. Marilyn kept detailed diaries. She reportedly recorded conversations. She had become someone who knew dangerous secrets about everything from nuclear weapons policy to the Kennedy administration's complicated and hidden relationship with the Mafia. The mob connection came through several channels. but especially through Frank Sinatra. Frank introduced Marilyn to the Kennedy brothers, and he himself had deep ties to a Chicago mob boss named Sam Giancana and other organized crime figures. This created a dangerous triangle of power, with Marilyn caught right in the middle. The theory that many serious researchers believe is that Marilyn had become a problem for too many powerful people. She was threatening to go public about her affairs with the Kennedys. If she did that, she wouldn't just reveal the romantic relationships. She might also expose the Kennedy administration's secret connections to the mob. For politicians and gangsters alike, Marilyn Monroe knew too much. According to some investigators, Robert Kennedy was actually in Los Angeles on the night Marilyn died, even though he later denied it. Phone records and witness statements suggest he was at her house just hours before her death. Then he suddenly left the city. The investigation into Marilyn's death was incredibly inadequate. No proper autopsy was done. Her phone records vanished. Her diary disappeared. The toxicology report showed such high levels of barbiturates in her blood that she couldn't possibly have swallowed enough pills to reach those levels. She would have passed out long before taking a fatal dose. More than 60 years later, Marilyn Monroe's death is still officially listed as a probable intentional overdose. But the combination of Hollywood celebrity, political power, and organized crime in her final days keeps many people convinced that one of history's most famous women was silenced because she knew too much and threatened too many powerful interests. Let me tell you about a relationship that ended in blood on a bedroom floor. Johnny Stompanato wasn't a celebrity himself. He was an enforcer and bodyguard for Mickey Cohen, one of Los Angeles' most notorious gangsters. Johnny was handsome and charming, but he was also violent and dangerous. In 1957, he started dating Lana Turner, one of Hollywood's biggest stars. On the surface, it seemed glamorous, a movie star and a mysterious, well-dressed man. But the relationship quickly became a nightmare. Lana later revealed that Johnny was extremely abusive. He threatened to slash her face with a razor if she tried to leave him. He said he would hurt her teenage daughter. Despite her fame and money, Lana found herself trapped in a cycle of violence and fear that many abuse victims experience. She was too scared to leave, but staying was destroying her. Everything came to a head on April 4th, 1958. Johnny came to Lana's Beverly Hills home, and they got into a huge argument. He threatened to disfigure Lana and harm her daughter Cheryl. According to court testimony, 14-year-old Cheryl grabbed a kitchen knife and stabbed Johnny to protect her mother. He died right there on Lana Turner's bedroom floor. The investigation and trial became a media sensation. Lana's tearful testimony about the abuse captivated the nation. The coroner's jury ruled it justifiable homicide, meaning Cheryl had acted in self-defense to protect her mother. But Johnny's boss, Mickey Cohen, was furious. He openly questioned whether the official story was true. Some people speculated that maybe Lana herself had killed Johnny, and her daughter took the blame, since a juvenile would face less serious consequences. Mickey Cohen made threats against Lana after the trial. He even had Johnny's love letters to Lana stolen from her house and threatened to make them public, essentially trying to blackmail the actress. This case showed America that even glamorous movie stars weren't safe from the violence and intimidation of organized crime. The brutality of the underworld could invade even the fanciest neighborhoods in Hollywood. The stories we've covered so far show a clear pattern. When celebrities got involved with organized crime, whether through business, romance, or just being in the wrong place at the wrong time, the results could be deadly. The mob didn't care how famous you were. In fact, sometimes your fame made you more of a target. If you knew their secrets, if you threatened their money, if you said no when they expected you to say yes, you could end up dead. What makes these cases so chilling is how many of them were covered up or explained away. Accidents that weren't accidents. Self-defense that might have been murder. Overdoses that looked suspicious to anyone who examined the evidence closely. In case after case, investigations were rushed, evidence disappeared, and powerful people seemed to steer things toward conclusions that protected certain interests. The golden age of Hollywood is often remembered for its glamour and elegance. We think of beautiful stars in gorgeous gowns, walking red carpets and attending fabulous parties. But underneath all that glitter was a dark reality. Organized crime had its fingers in every part of the entertainment industry. They controlled unions, they owned nightclubs and casinos, they had connections to studios and record labels. If you wanted to work in entertainment, especially in places like Los Angeles, New York, or Las Vegas, you were going to cross paths with the mob whether you wanted to or not. For some stars, those connections were casual. They might have performed at a mob-owned venue or attended parties where gangsters were present. But for others, the connections became deeper and more dangerous. Maybe they borrowed money when they were desperate. Maybe they got involved in business deals without fully understanding who they were dealing with. Maybe they witnessed something they shouldn't have seen or learned secrets they were never supposed to know. And once you were in too deep, there was often no safe way out. The mob didn't let people just walk away, especially if those people could cause problems. Your fame couldn't protect you. Your money couldn't save you. In fact, being famous sometimes made things worse because if the mob decided to eliminate you, your death would send a message to everyone else in the entertainment industry. This is what happens when you cross us. It's important to understand that not every celebrity death from this era was a mob hit. Many stars died from genuine accidents, natural causes, or personal tragedies that had nothing to do with organized crime. But the cases we've discussed today involve real evidence of mob connections, suspicious circumstances, and investigations that raise serious questions. These weren't just paranoid conspiracy theories. These were situations where the mob had clear motives and where the official explanations didn't add up. The relationship between Hollywood and organized crime started to change in later decades. Law enforcement got better at prosecuting mob figures. The FBI's investigations became more sophisticated. New laws made it harder for organized crime to operate openly. By the 1980s and 90s, the old mob families had lost much of their power and influence. But during the Golden Age, from the 1920s to the 1960s, they were at the height of their power, and the entertainment industry was one of their favorite playgrounds. Today, we look back at old Hollywood with nostalgia. We love the classic films, the legendary stars, the seemingly simpler times. But for the men and women who lived through that era, especially those who got tangled up with the wrong people, it wasn't always so glamorous. Behind the movie screens and hit records were real people facing real danger. Some of them paid the ultimate price simply because they ended up on the wrong side of the most ruthless criminals in American history. These stories serve as a reminder that fame and fortune don't make you immune to violence or tragedy. In some ways, they can make you more vulnerable. When you're famous, you attract attention from all kinds of people, including dangerous ones. And in an era when organized crime had enormous power and very few limits, that attention could be fatal. We'll never know for certain what really happened in some of these cases. Evidence has been lost, witnesses have died, and decades have passed. But the patterns are clear. Too many talented people died, too young, under suspicious circumstances. Too many investigations were inadequate or steered away from inconvenient truths. Too many powerful people had too much to lose if certain secrets came out. The legacy of these tragic stories continues to fascinate us today. Movies, documentaries, books, and podcasts keep exploring these mysterious deaths, trying to piece together what really happened. New evidence occasionally surfaces, giving us fresh perspectives on old cases. And the debate continues about whether justice was truly served or whether powerful criminals literally got away with murder. If you found these stories as fascinating and disturbing as I did, make sure to hit that like button right now. This type of deep dive into Hollywood's dark history takes a lot of research and work to put together, and your likes help this video reach more people who are interested in true crime and Hollywood history. I want to hear from you in the comments. Which of these cases shocked you the most? Do you think some of these deaths that were ruled accidents or self-defense were actually mob hits? Are there other celebrity deaths from the Golden Age that you think deserve more investigation? Let's discuss this in the comments section. I read every single comment, and I love hearing your theories and perspectives. And if you're not already subscribed to this channel, what are you waiting for? Click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our deep dives into true crime, mysterious deaths, and the dark side of fame. We got so many more stories to tell, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Share this video with anyone who loves true crime or old Hollywood history. These stories need to be told and remembered. The people who died deserve to have their cases examined honestly, even decades later. The truth matters, even when it's dark and disturbing. Thanks so much for watching. Stay curious, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll explore even more mysteries from Hollywood's shadowy past. Until then, remember that things aren't always what they seem, especially when fame, power, and organized crime collide.